Hey everyone, welcome back to Navajo Tea Time. We are live again from our break. So today we have 5 topics that we kind of want to get through tonight. Hopefully we have enough time within our hour time frame. Um, but feel free to comment your opinions or fun facts about any of these topics that we will be discussing so that you guys can be part of the discussion too. Um, so we're going to be talking about doomsday prepping, aka homesteading, aka being self-sufficient. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about the TikTok ban and some stuff related to that. Birthright citizenship and what it means to be a Navajo tribe person, member, and
Citizen.
citizen. And Leonard Peltier. Yeah, Leonard Peltier.
So
um,
hot tea topics.
But let's get the roses and thorns out of the way. So, Adrian, what are your roses and thorns since the last time we were live?
Oh my goodness. Roses and thorns. So these are like the good, the bad, the things we're excited about, the things that we're not so excited about. So I've been like super busy today, so I'm a little frazzled. So let me think. My roses are um so the last time we met, it was just before our break, and so I had a really good Christmas break with the family. We took the kids to this farm, and I was intending to vlog it and have that be my last Vlogmas post. So for those who are waiting, I'm so sorry. My kids were like, "Put your phone down." Like honestly, they did not want me to vlog it, and so out of respect for them, I didn't. But yeah, we went to this farm and we went on a hayride and we got to see reindeer. I don't think they were actual reindeer. They said they were reindeer, but they look like regular deer. They were really cute. And then we wrote letters to Santa, and we had apple cider donuts, which was really good. And we played mini golf. So, it was like really fun. And then in January, I created a new website for my business, Yuwaka Knowledge Distribution, and so I'm really excited about that because we've really taken on some new operations this year, like kind of kick-starting the company again. So I'm really happy about that. It was on hiatus since 2023, so I kind of put things down to work for an academic enterprise, and this year I decided it was going to be a really good opportunity to, try some new things and pick up some old projects, revamp them. And so I'm really thrilled about that. So I'd say that's my rose. It's like the one thing I've been really excited about, like getting my website up. I love making websites. And so that's been really fun, updating my LinkedIn. My thorns are kind of related to the current political landscape of the United States, naturally. Um, a lot of really, a lot of stress the past few weeks. And so I took a social media break. I deactivated my Meta account, and I've just been kind of like not really making the effort to watch the news or kind of keep up with things. I still listen to the Daily every now and then, and I read articles from the New York Times. But for that, like, it's very rare. I used to do it like every day, and I used to get notifications too when things like were happening. And now I just like I'm kind of taking a break. So that's kind of a thorn. I think it's caused a lot of stress in my family too because I have family in California and Arizona and New Mexico, and a lot of the places where I have family, there have been ice raids, and it's really stressful, as everyone knows that this isn't something that just affects American citizens, but it affects everybody. So those are probably like my roses and thorns. What about you? What are yours?
Some roses, I guess. My birthday's in January, so I celebrated that. Had a pretty good day for that. And then, um, I don't know, my kids are healthy. I signed up my daughter for Girl Scouts, which
Oh, that's
ironically was like the
awesome.
same kind of time that I got signed up for Girl Scouts, like second grade. So it just kind of mirrors that from when I first got signed up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really fun. It'll be exciting to do that with her. Just because I know she wants to do more things, and it'd be nice for her to talk to more people outside of school, because
Mm-hmm.
it forces me to be social with her. Otherwise, I wouldn't be social. Oh.
Yeah.
So
No, that's amazing. That is so cool. You know what? I didn't know you were a Girl Scout, or I
for like,
forgot.
I was a Girl Scout for like second grade and then or first grade, and then my mom moved to Phoenix to finish her teaching degree, and so then I didn't sign back up again. It was like the shortest time, but it was fun.
That's really cool. Oh my gosh. I hope your daughter loves it and has a good experience.
So do I. Yeah, her
How's your Sunny boy doing?
he's okay. He's a little bit over 1 years old, and
I know he's getting so big. He's so cute. Oh my
sometimes
gosh.
I'll just be holding him and I'll be like, "Your head used to be here. Why is it up here now? You're just so
I
jacked."
know. I know when I saw him when we filmed in Flagstaff, I was just like, "Oh my God, like he grew so much. He's so alert, you know?"
He's walking
Yeah.
all over the place.
Oh my gosh. That
He's a
is so
little
cool.
he's a little metalhead. I don't know if anyone follows like me or my husband on Instagram, you can see him just like head banging to Mushroom Head. Um,
I know
he
my kids are little are they're little metalheads too. It's so funny. I mean, yeah. It's good for them.
I guess, I don't know. It's always been my norm.
I know. I always say like the nicest people I've ever met and known have been metalheads. Like people think they're scary and mean and aggressive, but honestly, like all the men I've ever met were like gentlemen and the girls were like super cool, you know? They got their priorities straight.
I think there's like those little memes or whatever that's like if you're in trouble, look for a goth.
Yeah. For
Like
real,
in
dude.
public.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, those are like the positive traits I think that like certain subgroups have that
Yeah.
people may not be aware of because they're too scared of them. Which is like, why are you scared of makeup and clothes? Like, calm down.
Yeah. I think one of my thorns is also the same with you, just like stress. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's fighting off the apathy
Mm.
of where like everything just seems so large on such a giant scale and so many things happening all at once. It's like, I guess I'll just die of cancer.
Oh no.
If you don't know,
I
the
know it's
no
like
hall route's
FML,
been like
geez.
the ban of like the no hall has been lifted. I don't know if it was an official ban or whatever, but someone somewhere made an agreement and they're gonna start hauling the uranium through 89 up towards wherever that mill is in Colorado. And then all
Mm-hmm.
of like the bill or the executive orders that are being signed. It's just like, well, I guess I'll just die of cancer or see you all at the concentration camp. Um,
And some people don't even know that we had concentration camps in Arizona at one time. Like
mhm.
they don't even know that. They don't even talk about it. And it's like, dude, like all of this stuff is real. Like it was only a few generations ago we were marched from
Right?
our homeland to Bosque Redondo. Like, come on, people. Wasn't that long ago.
No. Yeah.
Anyways.
So that's just me. Like the thorn is me constantly trying to fight my apathy and
Mm-hmm.
find different reasons to keep going, I guess. Not that I'm gonna like, not that I'm any type of way, but like, wake up in the morning, get dressed, brush my hair, do a live on YouTube, trying to
Mm-hmm.
find those different reasons. Yeah.
Well, I'm banking on incompetence and I'm hoping for the best. You know, like my optimism has not at all been eradicated or minimized. And I really want to like encourage people who might be going through it right now, but also like vent.
For
Like
sure.
I'm stressing. Just kidding. Yeah, but I'm trying not to be like I don't want to be one of those people that just like gets so scared and like, it's like DEFCON 5 um whenever something changes. The truth is, what I think is um that a lot of these things are scare tactics. You know what I mean? They're like throwing things to see. It's like throwing something at a wall to see what sticks, basically, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to try everything. I mean, I think the executive orders that went through last week were really just, I think they were done to please the base, the voter base, to fulfill a promise, which is, what people do. And it's not like any of this stuff wasn't already shared with the general public. Like I think a lot of people knew this was coming, and I think a lot of people still voted in favor or didn't vote at all, thinking like, oh, it's not going to happen. And so we're just really kind of like, some people I think are reeling. I'm trying not to be one of those people, but I did have to shut off a lot of my information access just because I'm like, it's a little too much right now. But yeah, anyways, but my kids are doing really good. I think that's like one thing I want to share too real quick is just that the another rose related to family, and like not, talking about anything else related to politics, whatever. But their grades came in, and my son, he has a 3.3 GPA, and I am so proud of him because like the truth is he was like struggling for a long time. Like his freshman year wasn't that great. And then his sophomore year, he improved, and now he's a junior and he has a 3.3. And I'm like so freaking proud of him. And I was telling him, like, let's get to a 3.5, like you can do it. And so just like being really encouraging, but also just letting him know, like, I'm so proud of you. I see your work, I see your growth. And I know like high school's super hard, so that was really like a big deal for me. And then my daughter, her grades came in and she's got like a 4.375, which is like insane.
Hmm.
And my sisters are all like, I didn't even know you can get over 4.
You can, but
So yeah, she's been working really, really hard, and I'm really proud of her. Like her work ethic is so amazing. I always tell her like, I want to be like you when I grow up. Yeah, my kids inspire me. They're pretty awesome. But yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
My little one's in like second grade. She has like pass fail. That's what it is right now. So it's like, okay, she's passing. So,
Oh yeah, my little one, he's kind of in the same situation too. He's in first grade, so but he's doing really good, but he needs to bring his grades up or he needs to like work harder in math and reading. So he's kind of been like, he does math in his head and he kind of rushes through things, and his teacher was telling me like what normally takes a student like so they have 2 hours to complete this assessment, and most students finish it in 45 minutes. That's the average. And he turned his in at 20 minutes. And she was like, he needs to slow down, he needs to be more like thoughtful and check his work, you know what I mean, not just rush through it. So we're trying to get him to like ease back and kind of like,
but is
take
it
your
wrong
time.
or is it right?
It's not, I mean, I think he got like
Is he
I
just like
think a,
writing numbers and then
no,
no? Okay.
no, it's just like she showed me this assignment he did, and he did the whole thing. He did all the work, but he forgot to write in the answers on the little line. You know what I mean? And another one, he he rushed through it, and he was like one number off, which is still wrong, but his teacher was like, his work is like, if he had slowed down he would have caught that, because the
Okay.
work was right but the answer was wrong. So it's like things like that, you know what I mean? So it still counts though as wrong. So that's why she was like, you need to slow down, because where like you could get this right but you're getting it wrong because you're rushing. So
Oh, okay.
lesson to everyone. Just kidding. So yeah.
All right, cool. So I guess we'll go
I know
into
I'm talking like it's just you and I, but hi everyone. If you're in there and you're like getting bored, like who cares?
All right. So I guess we'll go into our topics.
Okay.
First one, doomsday prepping or just, being self-sufficient and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to start this one or did you want me to start?
Sure. So I think like the way we were talking or the way we wanted to talk about it was, doomsday prepping as going back to self-sufficiency. And so I think doomsday prepping kind of got a bad rap by like certain pockets of the population who are thought to be like extremist or thought to be a little conspiratorial or like fearful of things that might not actually be a threat, or like maybe even people that are like deeply religious, because there are some religions in America where it's kind of like a common practice to prepare for like everything to go down the toilet. So but I think like really the way I think we were talking about it was like it's kind of like common sense, and it's also something that's built into a lot of our life ways, indigenous life ways, where it was a common practice to be prepared for whatever, to be to have everything you need to be able to live, survive, and even thrive. So having a roof over your head, having enough food to eat for your family, having protections for your family. And so in modern day times, it's more like not relying on corporations like say bashes, not relying on the government to put food on your table or clothes on your backs, etc. So I think we could maybe chat a little bit about solutions that we were thinking. And like you mentioned, local farmers markets to
Mhm.
sell and purchase fruit and veggies, which I think is amazing. Great idea, something we can definitely do and manage. Um, Vendor markets to sell goods, supplies, and wares, which we see in a lot of some of the larger communities on like on the res. But maybe we could expand that beyond some of those and have them in every community. That way we have these markets, these outdoor markets or these vending spaces where people can trade, sell wares, etc.
Mhm.
Set up food markets. And then supporting mutual aid efforts. Of course, we all learned during the pandemic how important, useful mutual aid efforts are. Providing workshops and classes to teach cooking, food storage, gathering medicine, teaching people how to sew, how to weave, how to butcher, how to make shoes or moccasins, self defense, archery, marksmanship, spear throwing, bow hunting skills, livestock care or husbandry, midwifery, holistic prenatal care, and then becoming involved with organizations that support local community wellness and economic stability. So those are some of the really, really great ideas that you proposed, and then mine was all basic. It's all reduce, reuse, recycle, and then and I think what you can elaborate on, Kelsey, is maybe like how that's kind of shifted from reduce, reuse, recycle to reduce, reuse, repurpose.
Oh yeah, I think yeah, within like the past year or 2 years, there have been articles and videos coming out about how the facilities that say they can take recycling actually can't recycle everything the way that we were hoping they would. Like they can't just magically take all of our plastic and
Mm-hmm.
turn it into something else. They've had like a surplus or they don't have the right equipment. And so they've also just been like putting it to landfills as well.
Yeah.
And I know like some recycling centers are really nitpicky about what types of plastic they take, the conditions the plastic are in. Like you have to wash it, you have to take the coverings off, you have to take that little white ring around the plastic bottle off the plastic bottle, and I think at some point it just becomes too it just becomes too cumbersome for people to just recycle normally, or it's not as easy for people to recycle, and so they haven't been. And then the whole point of reuse, recycle, repurpose is that instead of trying to take it to the recycling center, you reuse the item for something else. Like you have a can a tin can, instead of recycling it, you use it to hold your pencils or pens or paint brushes, or you make like a wind chime, or you do something else with it and returning turning into something else, or like you see a lot of those flippers who get old furniture or whatever, repaint it, refinish it, and do something else and create it and bring it new life, instead of always buying something new, like newly manufactured, trying to like use what we have around. um, but yeah, that was just one of the things.
It's like super great, and I think like a lot of these ideas are really good and can be delivered by anybody. You know what I mean, anybody on the res who has a desire to teach or learn. I think like these are really great efforts that um can be initiated. People can collaborate and make these things happen. Like we could do that within our own communities. We could
Hmm.
start like in our house, we could start in our neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like it would be really cool to kind of pull together resources like that. One thing too that I wanted to mention, just like as we're talking about it, is like giving circles are also really great. So like when it comes to organize or like supporting organizations that do important work, or deliver workshops or deliver services, and say you want to give but you don't really know how, or you want to give but you can't give at high levels because of your economic, um, like I guess your economic or your like disposable income. You might not have a lot, but you still want what you can do is you can create a giving circle, and that's pulling together a few people and saying, hey, we're going to pool our funds and we're going to give to this initiative. And it could be as simply as like, hey, every person, if we could give $20, you know what I mean, 5 people can give 100, and 10 people can give 200, and etc. You know what I mean? So it's like it doesn't have to be this big ask, where I think some people think like when it comes to philanthropy or giving, it's like, well, I don't have thousands of dollars to give, or I don't have $1 million to give. And it's like, well, you don't have to. But it's really about the heart and the desire to do something beneficial and helpful. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I know like we were also talking about like how many people know how to butcher or sew or grow their own
Mm-hmm.
food. And I know it's called self-sufficiency, but I think in a way that kind of feels selfish and isolating, in a time
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like we need to lean on our local community, the people around us,
Mm-hmm.
our neighbors, people down the street, across the road, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Because like how many people, um, where was I going with this? Like I can sew, I know that, and I'm really good at gardening.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the space or the capacity to hold livestock. And
Mm-hmm.
so if somebody else butchers, I could give some vegetables or help sew stuff or clothing or something. And that's just a way of like being self-sufficient within the community and being able to rely on each other, I think is what's kind of
Mm-hmm.
important, and what I feel like needs to be going on now. That such
Yeah.
like because they threaten federal aid, they threaten WIC and they threaten
Mm-hmm.
food stamps, and they're probably gonna threaten Navajo clothing or tribal clothing.
Oh, tribal clothing. Yeah, the tribal clothing dang, that would suck. I remember I used to love that. Like we'd go and get our little bag of clothes with our
Hmm.
jacket and our shoes, and those were good days.
Yeah, and I just want to like feel like right now people feel kind of isolated, even though we're
Mm-hmm.
connected to the world,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not really connected to our neighbors. Like, do you even know your
Mm-hmm.
neighbor? And like,
Mm-hmm.
are you comfortable to talk to them or even ask for your like help from your neighbor? And
Yeah.
I feel like that's something like, sure, we're connected to the world, but we're not really talking to people around us.
Yeah, I would strongly encourage people to like just choose the closest neighbor and go over there and introduce yourself. You know what I mean? Like you guys might know about each other, but might not know each other as people or individuals, right? So like introduce yourself, like yeah, my name is, my clans are, my parents are. Um, or like invite them over for coffee or bring something to them. Like if you like to bake or if you like to make things, but here. That's really a great way to break the ice. And if you're not comfortable going to each other's homes or inside each other's homes, you guys can always talk outside, or um, I think like one time, do you remember back in the day when we were trying to organize these like mom walks? And
I
then
guess.
we did like a book club, and then um my cousin also used to try, she organized this like mom's giving circle where they were giving like their used, gently used like baby items like swings and bassinets and things like that, that babies grow out of. And it was really nice because all that stuff is expensive, and there's a lot of moms that like they have those, they kept them for years and they're not using them anymore, and then others need them. And so it was just a really nice way to like, like give clothes or hand off things that you don't need anymore.
Yeah, and saying it's easy, but me as an introvert,
You
just
have to do
thinking
it.
about having to go to my neighbor and introduce myself, I'm just like,
Oh my god, I know. I know how hard it is. I did that last year. Oh my gosh. Like, so I made these welcome baskets. And I put like all these little goodies in there, like one basket had like coffee and these really, it was fall time, so like those like caramel apple candies, and a really nice mug, and what else? Some pinions that we got from the Cheska Mountains, and some really good seasoning that we use that we get from California, to kind of represent me and my husband. Just like a bunch of little things were in there. And then I wanted to write little notes, like, hi, we're your neighbors. Like, here's our numbers. You know what I mean? If you want to get a hold of it, kind of thing, like really nice.
mhm,
And it took me forever to write those notes. Like they were just, I had them all in a line just sitting there on my counter. Like, and then I finally did it. I finally wrote it, and then it was time to deliver them. And I didn't want to deliver them alone. I wanted us to deliver them as a family. So then we had to coordinate that. And it's like you would think it's simple just to go next door, right? Go to your neighbors and deliver baskets. But it took like a month. You know what I mean? Like it took a long time. Finally did it. I was like, oh, whew, and it's nice now though, because now we look after each other's houses. If someone has a package coming or something and they're out of town, they'll let us know. Or if we need them to check up on something, they will. So it's actually really nice, it's useful. So now when we see them in the morning, we're like, hi, good morning, and it's not weird. So I would really recommend people do that. Especially if like your neighbors are your family, like just go visit them and bug them. Like whenever my cousins come home, I harass them, like from my mom's house. Like my cousin will roll up and be like, hey, ugly. I just like yell across the yard. It's funny. Or, hey, hooker. They're just like, what the? So yeah, it's fun.
yeah, for sure. But
Like,
fun. No, you try. That's why I got my daughter into, Girl Scouts, so it forces me to be social as well.
mm-hmm.
Now I have to be social. But yeah.
Yep. So yeah. Well, I don't know if we've exhausted that topic, but I think it's a really good topic. I think it's something cool to think about, and I think we should just like, or I would like to just encourage people to try it out. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
pick any one of those great ideas, come up with your own. But like right now is a really great time to strengthen our communities, build out our communities, rely on one another, Um, there are some big major threats, out there now on the horizon. How they're going to proceed is unknown. It could get really bad, but we as people have to remember that on the ground in our communities, we have a lot of power and we can get through this together. You know what I mean? So it's not like a hopeless situation. What people do above us in, these halls of power, you know, like that's completely different than what's happening, at home sometimes. So just a little reminder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so going from, being self-sufficient to the topic of AI or artificial
Yay.
intelligence. Complete 180.
I know, right?
So we basically know AI as like right now of what it is kind of like a computer program like ChatGPT that uses data that's been put into it to create something we asked for, like the prompt, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's how I know AI. That's how you know AI. It could go further on, and I think there's like robots that like pour
Mm-hmm.
drinks, or those dog robots, or those little delivery robots on different campuses. But I don't know how much AI they are, or is it just like a program to go a specific place? But that's where
Mm-hmm.
it could go. Um, and so the one thing about AI is that the item doesn't exist outside of the digital realm. Um, and so with us as a community, as a society, completely, not completely, but like being glued to the screens, how do we tell what's real and what's an AI image? I think
Mm-hmm.
with these past two elections, there's been a lot of AI generated photos and just weird things. You're like, that's AI. Like, how can you tell
Mm-hmm.
it's AI though? Un- and there's this thing called like the uncanny valley, and the definition is the phenomenon where a computer generated figure or humanoid robot bearing a near identical resemblance to human beings creates a sense of unease or revulsion in the person viewing it. So, like,
Mm.
I don't know if you watched the new Star Wars movies coming out, but Rogue One, they had an actor who was really old in the beginning of the series, like the first three episodes. So he was
Mm-hmm.
probably past, long past, but they went back to the timeline and they needed that face again. So they,
Mm-hmm.
made a digital image of him and used his
Mm-hmm.
likeness and his voice. And you stare
Was
at
that
it.
Luke?
They did it with Luke, but then they also did it with one of the generals from one of the older. It wasn't de-aging him. It was like a completely generated
Wow.
image because he's long past. Um, and you can tell
Yeah.
you're looking at it, you're like, there's something odd, there's something off. Like when you see some of the AI images and art, you're like, that person has six fingers. Their hand
Oh
is
yeah.
backwards. There's something wrong
Yeah.
with like the lines of perspective don't add up correctly. Like looking at one of those, what are they called? Rorschach? Not Roche, not the. It's the guy who has like those stairs that kind of go all over the place, and you're like, wait, that shouldn't line up with
Oh,
each other.
Salvador Dali.
I don't know. Um, but something like that.
Mm.
I should have
Oh.
looked at that artist. But like the perspectives don't line up correctly. So like our that uncanny valley in us just tries to find it, and it looks weird. Like you just feel it
Mm-hmm.
in your squiggly splooch that it's not right. Um
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think like what I've been hearing about AI are a lot of concerns about. So, what I was thinking when you were talking is when the British royalty released the picture of it was a family photo that was released, and um Prince, oh gosh, I don't really know royalty that well, but oh gosh, I'm sorry. Anyways, I'll talk about something else. But no, like the family releases family photo of like the mother with her children, and it was it, there was a lot of suspicion. I think what you're talking about, the squiggly splooch or whatever, like your intuition telling you something's off, right? And because she had kind of gone missing, she kind of disappeared from the public eye for a long time. And people were like, what's going on? It's been weeks. And it turns out she had cancer and she was going through treatment. And they put this photo out to kind of put the people at ease. Turns out it was AI generated. And they apologized for it, the firm apologized for it, but it was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, it's not above them to do that, and how many people are currently doing that. And as we know, if you're on any social media platform, people are using filters, they're using AI all the time.
mhm,
Um, and it's mostly for fun on those platforms, but I think the fear is just that people are going to use it for more like devious means, right? Like, how do we prevent that? So the question's always like, what's real, what's not, what's generated, what isn't? Like, how do we accept this? Like, should we be afraid? Should we be friends? You know what I mean? With this new technology. And I remember when so the question that I posed during this, like our pre-conversation, was should we be friends with Skynet? Skynet referring to, Terminator 2. And you posed the question, should we be careful not to become its enemy? And I think that is a fascinating conversation to have, right? Because what it does, it alludes to what where our fears are, and it alludes to what we're thinking, what it's capable of.
Hmm.
So,
I
yeah.
was thinking about that too, and I was just wondering, is AI capable of making the distinction of a friend or an enemy? And then I know my dad was a mechanic, and not a mechanic, but like maintenance and his tools, you know? He says you take care of
Mhm.
your tools and your tools will take care of you.
Mhm.
So right now AI is a tool. It doesn't have its own sentience yet that we know of, that anyone's released or published, but it's a tool. So
Mhm.
my thinking is if we take care of our tools, they'll take care of us in return, you know.
Mhm. That's
And
a really great way to think about it.
that's the only way I can think about it right now because it's not anything more than a tool at the
Yeah.
moment. And yeah, so that's some of the one of the things that come up with, like, should we be friends with
Yeah.
Skynet? And it's like, well, do you want it to be your enemy?
I
It's
know, right?
like
I know.
you treat something like an enemy for so long, it becomes your enemy. But you
That's
take care of your
true.
tools,
It's
they'll
like
take
that
care of
that
you.
saying they say, like, you kick a dog enough times, you know what I mean? You're gonna make it mean.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is like people are so stupid. They're feeding it all this negative, like they're feeding it the worst information. They're really showing our vulnerabilities in what they're feeding the information to it, not realizing that everything we input is what's going to generate this. We're creating our own monster, basically. If we
Mhm.
choose to, we could. And it's like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, but anyways, and it's funny because I think people go down these rabbit holes and they get scared when it turns on them, and it's like, well, you
That's
know
what
what I
you
mean? Like,
created.
for real, it's crazy. But I think like what I wanted to add to the conversation is I was in this training, and it was talking about how do we protect information, but how do we also utilize AI as a tool, as you were saying? But how do we protect our information and making sure that sensitive information doesn't get leaked, or that it's manipulated or used against us, or used to put us in a compromising situation, right? So, one thing that came up in that training was that it was really this the the IT expert was saying AI is always guessing. Whether it guesses right or wrong, it's just a guess. So
Mhm.
you can't actually rely on it because it's not reliable. You know what I mean? It's really just guessing all the time. That's its function. And sometimes it knocks the ball out of the park, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's always swinging for the fences. And so when it gets it right, I think people get really impressed. But when it doesn't, it's like, wow, that was really, really bad. And so that's something to keep in mind, that
That
what?
I'll say that reminds me of an AI generated eulogy or obituary I
Oh my
read.
god, that was so bad. I saw that.
And it's just
So
like
bad.
she died because of lack of life. I was like, like thanks AI.
I
Like
know, it's like, wow.
at the
And
end of
it's
the
funny because, like, it's only as smart as, like, at this point, I think they say, it was as smart as a grade school student, right? It's now evolving to be as smart as maybe a high school student, but it's going to get more intelligent over time, like probably within hours, which is crazy. But it is getting more intelligent. It is really good. I mean, I did see some during this training. We did see some examples of how to utilize it. Really impressive. I mean, really great. But the key is you have to frame your questions in a way where it's going to pull reliable sources,
mhm,
and you still have to do your vetting. You have to go through it, and you have to fact check to make sure that what it is generating is factual. Otherwise, and this is what students do all the time, they utilize it as a tool to kind of get their assignments out of the way, and then, like, whoops, it messes up, because it doesn't always get it right, because again, it's always guessing.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess we want to lean into like some of like the current issues with AI. One of
yeah.
them being the energy consumption.
Oh, yeah.
So I did a quick Google search and like funny like they added AI overviews. I guess that goes
Hmm.
over all of the Google searches. So if you're using Google for searching, you're using AI. Um,
Mm.
it's just built into the search engine now. And it said the GPT-3 model uses about the same amount of electricity as 130 US homes in a year.
Dang,
So that's
that's
how
a
much
lot.
energy it uses. And the GPT
Can you
uses
explain that, Kelsey? Because remember before I didn't understand what you meant by that. Like, how does it use energy?
Cause the data has to be stored somewhere physical. We all like this idea of the cloud, but the cloud is a giant computer box sitting in an office somewhere plugged into the internet, plugged into electricity to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically it's like it's where it stores all the data, where it stores the computer or the programming that filters through all the data to make your prompt.
And those servers are huge, huh? Like from what I've seen in movies, just kidding, from watching The Matrix. I'm just kidding. No, there's these huge servers, right? They get really hot. They use a lot of energy, right? And they get really hot and they have to stay cool.
Mhm.
And I think anyone who's ever done like who tried to get into crypto, like mine crypto, oh my god, like those servers required a lot of energy because they were running so quickly all the time. They were getting super hot. And so they can actually crash the system. So if you think about this global network, like, you know, almost every part of the globe having access to this technology, that technology can only move around and function through servers. And those
Mhm.
servers are probably huge. They're probably very like as you said, they're going to require a lot of maintenance and care, right? And energy. So,
Yeah, so it uses so much electricity and energy, and then there's like the thought of what energy is it using? Is it using coal? Is it using nuclear power? Is it using wind or solar? And I was talking with my aunt about that. She's like, "Oh, well, I think I'd be okay with the energy usage if it was solar or wind, but how do we dictate that, and how do we know for sure to be guilt-free
mhm.
about using AI, Chat GPT or different AI generation? We don't. We can't. We can't dictate or know for sure."
Mhm. Time and energy and money into creating something original. That was really like entering into the conversation. And then we saw this crazy AI generated art that was sold at Slothbees for like millions of dollars last year. And I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, so anyways, it's like there are these other conversations, that are happening around that, but it really is, I think like I think it's kind of like the newest, shiniest, prettiest thing right now. But I think in time, people are gonna revert back to the value of human generated art. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Art created by humans. Something you can touch and feel, and something that like people created through a process, that takes time, and resources that add value to it. And so it's almost like it's almost like these executive orders, you know what I mean? It's all like being thrown out there and causing a little bit of chaos and getting people excited, but you know, they're I don't think it's going to stick. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's me being optimistic like, okay, this is going to just be like the latest fad and it's going to go away. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
some
but
people might get looped into it. Like the people who paid millions of dollars for this AI generated art, I think really the thing they're paying for is just having the first to be created and
mhm.
thrown into a frame,
The
right?
novelty.
The novelty of it gives it its value. But beyond that, mm, you know what I mean? How
Yeah.
many of those how many of those creations can be created before they become worthless?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Everything, so anyways, just yeah. But I can go into the AI dominance article if you want to stay
Yeah,
on track.
if you want to, or I could just we can go back to the other one where it's like I know you were like, can you escape AI? Is there any way to not use it or not be a part of it?
I don't think so. Honestly, I think like so I've shared this before, but I'm in grad school right now. I'm in a master's program, and I was having a conversation with my professor last week, and he was saying that as a part of his um, as a part of our coursework, we are going to be tasked with utilizing AI for an upcoming assignment. And other professors who I know personally, my husband, and his colleagues, they're actually weaving it into the curriculum. And the reason why is because they're like, students are going to use it anyway. Let's teach them how to use it responsibly. Let's teach them how to use it in a way that's going to actually propel, like it's going to grow their knowledge, and
Hmm.
it's going to teach them how to develop a process for using it that's actually, so the way, like for example, the way my husband crafted his curriculum is, it's actually harder. He crafted it so that you're actually doing double the work than you would if you're creating something on your own, and he gives the students a choice. You know what I mean? And so it's really interesting. And my professor in the class I'm taking right now, that's, he's crafting it so that we can be prepared to be competitive in the long run, like in the job market, right? Or like in our field of study. And I'm really curious to see how he crafts it. I haven't seen it yet, but he was telling me like, this is coming in a couple weeks, and you're going to be tasked with using AI for this assignment. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready for it, because honestly, I've been so averse to it. Like I'm the kind of person that I love creating something from scratch. Like I love the challenge of it. Like I like being creative, and I also like being able to say, no, those are my thoughts. Like, no, I came up with that. You know what I mean? Like that's my solution. That's my bright idea. Like I love that. And I don't, and it's, so I think that like, so I've been kind of averse to it and not been using it, but I know I need to be comfortable with it. Like I know that it's gonna, like used properly, it is gonna make things a little easier down the road. Like
Hmm.
um being able to craft scripts, right, for future projects, being able to craft language for something that we might not be as familiar about, but just need a template, you know, like if you're presenting something outside of your field of study or your area of expertise, it might be nice to have a template. And that's how I've seen some of my colleagues use it in the realm of fundraising. You know, like how do I craft a proposal for A, B, and C, like for a very specific audience? And AI will help them kind of, you know, throw them some ideas. Their job is not to do a cut and paste, but their job is to utilize that as inspiration and then build on that. It's kind of like just a jumping off point, you know?
Hmm.
And so I think if used like that, it's good. If used to be deceptive, if it used to be a weapon, like weaponized, that's a big freaking problem.
Right. And I was just gonna go on of like spell check, grammar check, word count. I would think with
Hmm.
all AI, that little tiny paper clip that used to come up for
Oh yeah.
Microsoft Word to help us with our papers or whatever. I think those like early AI, and I know I couldn't survive without spell check because I can't spell to save my life. So,
Mhm.
and then
No, there's some really good uses of it.
and then like you were saying, like used to create an outline. I actually used AI to create the outlines for our upcoming pre-recorded episodes, but
Hmm.
that was after I spent like 2 hours researching how to craft uh, an outline. So I did the research and then I said, "Hey, what would you create?" And I'm like, "It's exactly the same as like the 5 different articles I read. They were all the same basic layout. It's just
Yeah.
it's like, okay, it's all basically the same, so I'm fine."
Yeah. But there might have been a few things, right? They're like, oh, that's really good. Or if they miss the mark, then you're like, you're well informed enough to be able to see where it missed the mark. And I
Yeah.
think that's really the key, you know? Like I said, used as a tool, it's fantastic, you
Hmm.
know? Um,
But
and
I'd
like
never be like,
one
"Hey,
example,
write a Navajo tea time script for us." I don't think it would work.
I know one thing I was really pushing for when I used to work for Dana College was having utilizing AI as a chat function on the website so that when people go to the website, they can say, like, who do I contact to like if they're looking for scholarships, if they need to, reach a certain office or an individual, or if they have questions about a very specific program, and then it could then navigate them through the website to kind of get them to the page they needed to be at, right?
Mhm.
Or get the information they need right away. Because, and to me, that was a great useful way of using AI. Of course, it didn't go anywhere because everyone was scared of it, and this was a couple years ago too, and they're like, no, that's crazy. And I'm like, no, like, businesses use this all the time. Like, this could really be beneficial to our students, because usually when they call, honestly, it doesn't go to where you think it's going. I know whose desk it's going to, and that person's not always there. Like, it's going to one person, and that person usually just sends everything to voicemail. Like, I know that because I work there. And so I'm just like thinking, like, okay, how can we do this better to better serve these populations who are usually students? Like, the majority of people calling the college are students. Sometimes they're donors. So it's like, how do we get those people to where they need to be, or what, to the person that they need to talk to? So I think that's like a useful way of using AI.
Mhm. All right.
But yeah.
Cool.
All right. So
So
can I go into the
you can go into the topic or the article if you want to, or we can go into your one of your topics because I think we're gonna have to
you're all,
cut out.
I know it's like
Uh,
7 o'clock.
we're already
Yeah,
at
we can
an
stay on
hour.
topic, or
We can stay
well,
on
I
this
just
topic, or we can move to your topic to discuss.
okay, let me just share real quick this article. So if you want to listen to it, it's the Daily. You can download it, you can stream it, whatever. But the title's China Challenges Silicon Valley for AI Dominance. And it's really a quick breakdown. It's about this website or this AI called DeepSeek. And it caused a huge uproar because it caused a huge panic on Wall Street. And the reason why is this new AI it's a free open source AI. And it's the reason why it caused an uproar is because a lot of these larger companies that are running AI right now, like ChatGPT, like Google and Microsoft, right? These are huge companies that are well known in the United States, and they're playing with AI, and they were able to source a lot of money from individuals and other companies and from the government. Like, I'm talking like billions of dollars. They're committing billions of dollars to moving that technology forward, and that's what they're telling their stakeholders. So people are investing in these companies and in these initiatives. Well, DeepSeek shows up on the scene, and not only is it just as powerful, but it only took a few $1 million to create this, as opposed to billions. So the problem was all these investors were like, wait a minute, why does this company that can do what, like, why can company A do what company B does, but for a fraction of the cost? Why are we giving all this money? And so people started to, like, when they saw that, they started opting out. And so, things were tanking and crashing. And so it was a big thing. And that's what this story talks about. And I think it's just like super fascinating because it's something that we should know. It's a little tidbit of information, but we've already talked about this for a long time. So I think we can just quickly transition to this next topic. So actually, should we flip a coin? We have birthright citizenship and Leonard Peltier.
Let's do Leonard Peltier first because you're
Yay!
supposed to teach
Okay.
me about him, remember?
Yes. Okay, that's what I actually want to talk about. Okay. So Leonard Peltier, he was for those who do not know, he's a Native American activist and member of AIM, which is the American Indian Movement, that was convicted of first-degree murder for the deaths of two FBI agents, for a shooting that happened June 26, 1975, at the standoff at Pine Ridge. And for those of you who are familiar with the American Indian Movement, it was this big resistance effort that was comprised of a lot of students and youths who were fed up with the oppression of Native peoples. And at the time, there were a lot of social justice movements happening across, various minority groups, people of color. The American Indian movement were amazing. Not only did they speak out about some of these really big issues, but they were able to unify people from all these different tribes to resist and stand up and say, you know what, we're not going to take this. They were a part of the occupation at Alcatraz. They took over the entire island. And so Leonard Peltier, he was at Pine Ridge, and the shooting happened, and he was taken in and blamed for the deaths of these FBI agents, and he's been in jail for over, like, I think almost 50 years now. It'll be 50 years in June. And so for years, since I think the last I remember, or from when I remember in my memory, um, since the Clinton administration, people have been really urging presidents to pardon Leonard Peltier on the basis that he was convicted on basically no evidence that he was actually responsible for the deaths of these FBI agents. At the time, the FBI was targeting a lot of these activists, individuals who were considered to be too loud, too visible, too powerful. And it's really dangerous when you're in that space because basically the easiest thing to do is take you out or lock you up. And that's what happened to him. And so it happened to other individuals, like, for example, John Trudell. His family was taken out. Like, it was crazy. Like, a lot of people who stand up and who are very, very successful in that resistance, a lot of them are targeted. So, anyways, Leonard was in jail for many, many years. Every presidential term, the people who have organized to, like, advocate to save him and release him from prison, they've been ignored. And this year, or this past presidency, with Joe Biden, people were really on it. Like, come on, he's getting older, he's suffering from different health conditions. Like, the time to let him go is now. And the reason why is because there is no evidence to actually prove that he did this. But also, it really did feel like he was being kept in prison to kind of send a message to the native population of, like, this is what we can do if you step out of line. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we can do to you. Like, stay quiet, like, do what we say, don't push the boundaries, don't resist, because guess what? This is what we can do. And that's really what they were saying. And, like, this isn't fair. So, anyways, I remember a few months ago, there was this word going about saying, oh, the president is going to make this huge announcement and it's going to really impact Indian country. And so some of us were like, is he going to pardon him? Like, what's going to happen? Because this would be big. This would be a huge move for Joe Biden. And I believe that it would actually be a great tactic, political tactic, to get the native population on his side as he's in this really, like, head to head tumultuous race for the presidency. Well, the time comes, he makes this announcement to the tribal community, to all of Indian country, and it's basically an acknowledgement of the atrocities that have happened on US soil, um, against Native people at boarding schools. So it's really addressing that. And it was just an apology, like nothing else, right? And to some people, they're like, okay, so they're finally admitting fault, they're finally acknowledging that this is a problem, this is something that was systematic and targeted, and they're responsible for it. But beyond that, really no action, right? And so it kind of fell flat. And some people, me, were disappointed. Like, more could be done. Anyways, 30 minutes until Joe Biden left office, he offered this, or he offered this. It wasn't a full pardon. It was basically, it was like a partial pardon, stating that Leonard Peltier will be released from prison, but he's going to be on house arrest for the remaining years of his life. So he's not going to have the freedom that he deserves. You know, he can't be out traveling and doing all the things, but he will be out of jail and he will be able to go home and where he can serve the rest of his days, which is amazing. He can be with his family, he can eat good food, he can be with community, he can partake in ceremony, which is amazing. And so that was a big deal. And that happened, like I said, 30 minutes before Joe Biden left office, which I think is a huge move. I mean, of all the people that got pardoned, I'm really glad that Leonard's one of them. I think it's well deserved. I think he served a lot of time. You know what I mean? And I think that having that compassion to do that is notable. And I think if anything, despite what anyone says, I think Joe Biden really has done a lot for Native peoples during his term, whether you like him or not, or you think he's capable of going for a second, run for the presidency. Like that's all behind us now, right? Like he's out, he's not going to come back probably, and I wish him well. But yeah, that's what's going on. So he was released, or he's going to be released this month in February. So he wasn't immediate. The gates were not open.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They weren't open for him yet. I believe he's actually going to be leaving or going to be released on the 18th. So that's exciting. So like in 2 weeks, he's going to be going home, and that is the rundown. What are your questions?
Oh no, I didn't have much questions.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Thank you for the
let me.
information. I know I don't follow politics or movements very much because, like I said, I have this big apathy that I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly fighting, and just
Mm-hmm.
honestly, me talking about any issues, bringing anything up, for me is a big thing. Otherwise, I would just live on a mountain and be a hermit and not know if anyone else was still alive. Um,
Mm-hmm. I know, and
so,
I'm like the opposite. I'm just like, it's almost like knowing too much. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like and they say knowledge is power, but it can also be a big burden.
They
You know
also
what I
say
mean? So,
ignorance is bliss, where if you don't
exactly,
know, you
right? Like
can't be mad about it.
exactly. And I think that's how a lot of people are, like they don't want to take on that weight because for some of us, you can't just put it down. You can't just forget. You can't just let it go. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like once you know, it's almost like, okay, what do I do now? And then that usually for me it happened when I was in high school. I was like 16, I think, when I woke up fully, and I started to learn a lot about the world around me beyond the borders of Tuba City, right? And that was my first question, like, okay, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, what the H, what the double, what is it? What the HE double hockey sticks do I do? And so as I got older, though, I would, I started to get connected,
Mhm.
right, with others who were in the same dilemma, who were asking the same questions. And then that led to being connected with people that were actually doing something that had answers to those questions. And I think it put me on a really wonderful journey, and I'm really grateful for it. It is a lot to carry, you know what I mean? It is a burden. And sometimes I do wish that I had the luxury of not knowing some of the things that I know. You know what I mean? To just
Mhm.
be blissfully unaware and unbothered. But that's just not the reality, And so I think for those who want to know a little more about this specifically, though, Leonard Peltier had a memoir published in 1999. It's called Prison Writings: My Life is My Sundance. And so that's one source that I think people could read if they're interested. And then also the something else that I want to share that I just looked up is like at the time of the shootout, he was an active member of AIM, which is an Indigenous rights advocacy group that worked to combat the racism and police brutality experienced by Native Americans, which is very, very similar to a lot of the other social justice and civil rights movements in America. The enemy really always started out being the police, because police were brutalizing people of these communities. And for Native peoples, that's really been rampant, and it really hasn't slowed down. You know what I mean? I think people don't talk about it. In America, people are always talking about, oh yeah, so it's Black History Month. So people are always talking about like the Black population being under underrepresented, right? They're being no, it's not even that. That's not even the thing. The Black population is always being targeted by the police and being brutalized, and their lives are being taken in public, in daylight, by police on purpose, right? And they, I've even heard people say, like, in media, that, like, in America, it's the Black man that's most endangered. But so that's really the narrative, right? But what people don't know is that the population that is actually suffering the most violence is the Native American population. If you look at demographics for people that are experiencing murder, abuse, rape, all these horrible crimes, the brutalization of Native Americans is rampant, and it's more than the Black population. The thing is, we're such a small population, we don't get the notice. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? We're it fluctuates, but it's around 1% of the United States population of people. However, and well, because of that, we don't get the spotlight on us as much as we deserve. Like, our suffering is always just pushed aside. And I think it's really because we're not as loud about it. Like, the AIM movement was loud about it, but that came and went. And since then, a lot of people, they're not talking about it until you have two random people on this platform called YouTube on Navajo Tea Time that are like, you know what, we're going to talk about it. So, we need to talk about it. We need to be loud about it. We need to be vocal about it. We need to find solutions, because it's not okay that we are that population that is suffering the most, and there aren't resources there for us unless we create them for ourselves, which we are. And I always think that we need to commend those organizations that are doing that important work and support them, join them, be a part of them, because we have the solutions to our problems. And I think we have the ability and the agency to make a big change today and tomorrow and beyond.
Yeah, I think I remember reading somewhere that just like the percentage of like murders or missing people
Mm-hmm.
is a lot higher based on our population rate. Like, if you take every demographic and break them down by the percentage of their population, like our percentage of population and our percentage of missing and murdered is way higher than what any
Mm-hmm.
of the other percentages are. But we're still
Mm-hmm.
like a little tiny percent, but that's like hundreds of thousands of people still.
Mm-hmm. And like, our women are targeted more. We experience violence more. We experience sexual assaults more. We have a higher rate of poverty. You know what I mean? And so it's really bad, but I think we can change it. I know we can, but it's really that coming together, and it's really like sharing knowledge, sharing opportunities, supporting one another. Like, I had a friend call me today, just randomly out of the blue, and she was just like so encouraging and offering her support in any way I needed. She basically just said, how can I help? What do you need from me? How can I help? And that's the kind of attitude that we need to have, because, like, those are the types of women I surround myself with. People that are like, how can I help? What can I do? You know what I mean? How can I be of use? They're never like, they come with solutions. You know what I mean? And I think that those are the kind of people we need to be. Those are the kind of women we need to be, and those are the kind of women and men that we need to raise. I think that's really, really important. And for those men that want to be a part of it, like, come on, show up with solutions, right? If you have questions, like, try to have some answers too. I really think that that's the way we need to be as people. We have a really great model and framework that exists, that our ancestors created and upheld for like millennia since, you know what I mean? It's all there. We just got to kind of circle back to it. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's we're not creating anything new. We kind of have to circle back and go back to, like these ways of being in community and helping one another.
There's definitely a trend of like going back to basics or relearning different like things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And on that note, we have merch on Happy Accidents fourth wall page. We'll link it. It's in the descriptions. There's some
Yay!
mugs, or there's a mug, sweatshirt, and a journal, some stickers. But yeah, if you want to help us help us out,
Yep.
or I know we've been
Support happy
promising merch for a
accidents.
while now. This is the way we've been able to do it without breaking our personal banks, but then also being able to have it delivered to you guys on a